Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and you join me at sunny Farnborough for the launch of the new BYD SealUV MDI. Now, BYD are growing in the UK and gaining a bit of a positive reputation down to their full electric vehicles with the Dolphin, Atto 3 and Seal. But they do have a strong reputation when it comes to plug-in hybrids, and we now have this joining the ranks in the UK, the SealUV. And it is, yes, as you can tell from the name, an SUV version of the Seal, so more of a SealUV. But I'm here on its UK media launch to see what this plug-in hybrid is all about, and to let you know that on paper, this could be one of the most surprising cars in terms of value for money in its segment. Now stick with me to find out why. Now, when it comes to the SealUV's design, as you can clearly see, it takes its inspiration from the Seal saloon car, the full electric car, and it's just been jacked up to create a family SUV, which is no bad thing because it actually, I think, looks really good. The proportions do actually scream family SUV, and I do love that taillight cluster. Just like the saloon, it is very distinctive. But it is going up against a very competitive segment with the likes of Ford with the Kuga, Hyundai Group with the Sportage and the Tucson, Stellantis and Nissan and so on. So it's basically a car that needs to stand out. But let me know what you think of the SealUV styling in the comments section below. I personally think it is a really nice, well-proportioned car. But on that note, I think it's time we stop looking at the exterior and see what they've done to the interior. Sat in the front of the SealUV, you are greeted by a very comfortable, really nicely laid out, and also a very well kitted out interior. It does very much scream BYD, especially due to that infotainment system. Now, because this is a family SUV, getting in and out of the SealUV is really easy because of the raised seating position. I will mention there's no grab handle for the driver, but there is for the front passenger. So if you do suffer from any kind of mobility issues, that's just something to be aware of. And then once you're sat in the driver's seat, you find that they are extremely comfortable. I do love the vegan leather as well, and there is plenty of adjustment, including adjustable lumbar support. I will also mention that these are heated and ventilated seats. And then with the steering wheel, I have got both rake and reach adjustment, so getting the ideal driving position is easy. And then interior quality is a big plus as well. We got soft touch plastics here on top of the dash with a bit of faux stitching. We got some leatherette here, or vegan leather here on the dash and center console, again with some contrasting stitching. Some metal effect trim here, some piano plastic, and soft touch here on top of the doors, and a little bit of hard plastic, but also soft plastic here on the door panels. And then we got, again, some vegan leather here on the armrest, and you have to go quite far down to get the hard scratchy plastic, but it does feel very well screwed together and feels like a quality place to be. Some people just have no manners. Cubby spaces in the SealUV actually seem very decent. We got some good sized door pockets where you could get a medium sized bottle of drink in there, but they're not lined with any fabric, so loose items will rattle around a bit. Now, we have got a floating center console where underneath we have got a bit of hard scratchy plastic, but it is a usable tray area with your 12-volt socket and 2 USB-C charging inputs. And then up on top here of this floating console, we got 2 wireless charging pads. That is a big plus. We have got a couple of cup holders here which seem of a decent shape and size, with a couple of plastic grippers as well. And then we have got your armrest, which is surprisingly deep, and it is rubber lined. That is very handy, and there's a little tray here as well. And then finally, we got the glove box, which I will say is an okay size, but some rivals have got more storage there. So yeah, when it comes to cubby spaces, it's actually pretty decent in here. Now, when it comes to physical or touch sensitive buttons in here, there are a couple here to keep things kind of feeling a bit old fashioned. But granted, a lot of the controls are done via the infotainment system. So we have got your little crystal gear selector here in the center, with a couple of buttons here for your auto hold and also your parking sensors. Controls here to put you into full electric or hybrid, your drive mode select, and also some touch sensitive buttons to demist the front screen and the rear. Also your start stop button and your electric parking brake. Then on the steering wheel itself, on the left-hand side, we've got your radar-guided cruise controls, your 360 camera controls, as well as this button to switch the screen 90 degrees. That is a BYD USP. And on the right-hand side, then we have got your voice, media, and communication controls, and controls to operate the digital driver's display. And then a couple of buttons on the right hand side to do your windows and your mirrors, and an extra button to open up the boot. But yes, being a BYD, a lot of the controls are done via the infotainment system, but what I really love using the voice activation or the voice controls, because they are very responsive and they're actually quite specific as well. It's yeah, very unique. So speaking of the infotainment system and the digital dashboard display, with the digital dash, you have got a 12.3-inch display. It has got a day and night mode, and it does project a lot of information for you. And like I said, you operate it using the rocker switch and the buttons on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. Now, because I've only had a brief drive in the car, I will say it does take a little bit of getting used to, but it's quite a nice intuitive system, and this, I do like the display, especially when compared to the likes of, say, the Dolphin and the Atto 3, where it's much smaller. This does feel, yeah, much more conventional in its layout. And then we have got the infotainment system. So we have got a massive 15.6-inch display. It is touch sensitive, but also there's a lot of voice controls as well, and it's something I really loved with the Dolphin, because you can get oddly specific with it. And with this, I would say it is a system of basically set up before you set off. You have got things like wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, but I do like the fact it is set up just like the Dolphin, like the Atto 3 and the EV Seal. And yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but one thing I do like, and I've seen this on kind of the owner groups, is that if people have noticed something and a lot of people come together, BYD will change it. It will adapt it to make life easier for you. So that's something I really do like. So yeah, being sat here in the front of the SealU, it is very comfortable, really well and nicely kitted out. And I do like the design as well. And on that note, I think it's time we quickly have a little sit in the back and see what it's like for rear passengers. Sat in the back of the SealU, it is surprisingly spacious and comfortable back here, but it's not devoid of features either. Now that driver's seat is not set to my driving position. It's actually moved back about 3 or 4 inches, but I've still got a massive amount of knee room, and headroom is actually very good as well, even though we got that sunroof on this design trim, and I can get my feet underneath the driver's seat as well. So when it comes to kind of adult passengers, you could easily get a couple of 6-footers sat here for a medium, or I actually think long length journey. And then you could definitely get 3 kids sat in the back here, because there is no transmission hump to navigate over, even though this is the all-wheel drive version of the SealU. Now when it comes to Isofix and kids, we have got Isofix on the outer seats. There's no plastic covers, it's just a nice open space there to affix a child seat, so the bar is exposed. Nice and simple. And also the front passenger seat has got Isofix support as standard. Cubby spaces, I'm going to say, are pretty good. We've got some, I'd say, some okay sized door pockets where you can get a medium sized bottle of drink in there. We've got your aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats. We have got your armrest with a couple of cup holders with some little plastic grippers in them. I will mention it is a 60-40 split in the seats with no through loading. But we've also got a little tray area where you can put your phone whilst it's charging using the 2 USB-C charging inputs, which is really handy. And yeah, it's just a very lovely, comfortable place to be. There is a little tag here that you can pull, and it actually means you can adjust the seat. There we go. You can recline the seats to get it more comfortable. So this would be perfect, like I said, for taller passengers on a long journey. And then the windows themselves are tinted. That is really nice size as well. I'm not quite sure if they open fully. I will put a little clip on top, but do you know what? Being sat here, yeah, it is really comfortable, especially for somebody like myself. And I could imagine myself doing, like I said, a long journey in the SealU. So yeah, on that note, I think it's time we quickly have a little look at the boot and then go for a drive. Opening the boot of the SealU presents you with 425 litres of space, which in this segment is a little bit behind some of its rivals. But when you got the boot open, you are greeted by a nice wide square load area. There's a little bit of a boot lip to navigate over, and I will say actually the boot is quite high, so it could be a bit difficult for dogs to jump in and out of, or if perhaps you've got a large bulky item or something like a wheelchair to load into the boot area. Now when it comes to features, I will say it is a little bit lacking. We have got a bit of storage space here on the left hand side where you could put a couple of items away. There is a subwoofer on the right hand side for the Infinity sound system. We have got a bag with your charging cable added, and well, we've got a little bit of additional space underneath the floor, but it's nothing really to write home about. And when you put the seats down, you have a little bit of a ridge to navigate over, but the seats as well, they don't go completely flat. So again, loading any large bulky items will be a little bit tricky. However, it should be absolutely fine for, say, a large suitcase plus a couple of bags or a few carry-on bags if you're going to go on holiday. But yeah, a week shopping, you'll have no issues with whatsoever. So it is a nice boot size. I do like the size and shape of it. It's just lacking in a couple of features, and in terms of overall capacity, just a little bit behind its rivals. And on that note, I think it's time we get the boot down, take this SealUV for a drive and see what it's like, because it's very windy and it's just ruining my hair. So once you start driving the SealUV or SealUV, first impressions are actually very positive, but there is one little area I'd like to see improved. Now the car is very easy to drive. That's the first thing I found once I started driving it, and it is very comfortable as well. And because of this high seating position, when it comes to visibility, I'm going to say it's pretty good, but this is where it needs a bit of improving. So because of that raised seating position, I've got a wonderful view of the road ahead. The A-pillars are a little bit thick, but I've not actually found myself looking around them yet at any junctions. The wing mirrors are of a nice shape and size, and I have got blind spot monitoring as well. But then when I look over my shoulder, I find that the C and D pillar are a little bit thick, but there is a little window there to help me out. Plus I've got that blind spot monitoring. But its rear visibility, that was the actual surprise. It's quite a narrow letterbox rear view, plus the headrests at the back do obstruct your view a little bit as well. But you do get things like 360 cameras and parking sensors all round as standard, so that is a highlight. But yeah, once you get going, first impressions in terms of the way the car drives are very positive. It's very comfortable, and it's an easy car to drive as well. Now, when it comes to trim levels in the SealUV range, this is where BYD are gonna get you, and in a good way, because you're probably looking and going, Dave, I can see a panoramic glass roof, I've got the vegan leather, I've actually got ventilated seats that are cooling my bum as I speak, and I've got a raft of safety systems and driver aids. I'm clearly driving the top of the range design. No, I'm driving the entry-level Boost. So this is the thing, this is where BYD have been very clever. Everything is standard on every trim level in terms of kit, in terms of safety, in terms of driver aids. Everything's the same. Chilled seats, panoramic glass roof, they are all standard, which is, I think, absolutely blummin' brilliant. Where the trim levels come into play is when it comes down to the battery size, and if you go for the top of the range version, you basically get a dual motor setup with all-wheel drive and more performance. So when it comes to recommendations, personally, the Boost and the Comfort, or the upcoming Comfort, almost seem like no-brainers. That's going up to just shy of £36,000. That's before you add metallic paint. But you get everything as standard. That's just blowing my mind. You go to other brands and manufacturers and you have to add packs to the car. You have to go up the trim level range in order to get more stuff added to it. BYD have just been so clever by simply having everything on the car ready to go. It's just a simple question of, do you want the standard battery? Do you want a larger battery? Or do you want all-wheel drive? Those are the three choices you got. And I'll be honest, I think for most people, the Boost will be absolutely fine, and you'll have a great amount of range, you'll have great amount of electric driving, just pure in EV, and you still got all that standard equipment. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I think really if you're going to go for the top of the range design with the extra performance and all-wheel drive, it's simply down to the fact that you might want to use the car for towing. Now at the moment I don't have the numbers for towing capability, but if I do have them, I'll put them on the screen now for you so you can see. So that's it. When it comes to trim levels, it has nothing to do with what you get on the car. You get everything from the get-go. It's simply if you want the smaller battery, larger battery, or all-wheel drive. That's it. Well done, BYD. You've been bloody clever there. Now, when it comes to powering the SealU, at the heart of it, underneath the bonnet, is a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine. Now, here's the thing. If you go for the boost or comfort, it doesn't come with a turbo. If you go for the top of the range design, it does. Now, when it comes to the hybrid system, what you get then with the boost and the design is an 18.3 kilowatt hour battery. But the mid-spec comfort gets a larger battery. It actually goes up to a 26.6 kilowatt hour battery. I'm going to put everything on screen now for you so you can see, but essentially it's not about the performance of the car, it's actually about the range. This is the big thing that BYD are pushing on the SealU. And like I said, if you go for that top of the range design, that's when you get the dual motors, more performance, but it does take a knock of overall range, whether that be in pure electric or just in total when combined with the petrol engine. But you know what? The numbers are quite astonishing. The fact that you can go for something like the entry level boost and you can have a range of around 671 miles, I think that's absolutely nuts. And then with the comfort, it's even more so, but you do have to pay for that larger battery. But you know what? I love the way BYD have actually kind of gone about promoting this car, or promoting the kind of strengths of it. A lot of manufacturers look at performance, those 0 to 62 times. But yes, they're not too bad, especially if you go for the design. But that's not the real reason you're going to go for this car. You're going to go for the frugality. You're going to go for the comfort and all of that standard equipment. Yeah, so basically, again, when it comes to the kind of choices of the power from the SealU, again, I would look still at the boost or go up to the comfort, take full advantage of that larger battery. But if you are after that extra performance, like I said, for possibly towing, then the design is the one still to look at for there. But again, I don't feel the SealU is that type of car. Now, when it comes to the SealU's ride and refinement, I'm going to say it's pretty good. Now, all cars come with the same 19-inch alloy wheel design, which again shows the fact that every car gets the same standard equipment, which I think is very good. Also, the emphasis as well is on comfort rather than sportiness. Again, something I do appreciate BYD doing with the SealU. And then when it comes to, I'd just say kind of everyday driving, you shouldn't have any issues with the SealU whatsoever. It's a very comfortable car. At low speed, yes, you can feel some of the bumps and imperfections come through into the cabin, but really it's not a massive intrusion. And then when it comes to the refinement, that's probably one of the weak areas on the SealU, is that you do get quite a bit of tyre roar coming into the cabin. Wind noise is actually not too bad. I'm not really getting anything from the A-pillars or the wing mirrors. It's just that tyre roar there if you're going to do a long journey. But as standard, you do get a wonderful Infinity sound system, which does a wonderful job just kind of taking away some of those outside noises. So yeah, once you start driving the SealU just on an everyday kind of to work and back, it's absolutely fine. Like I said, I love the fact that the emphasis is on comfort. And yeah, I've got no real major issues with it. You should be absolutely fine for day to day. Now, what about the SealUV's handling? So, believe it or not, I'm actually coming to the end of the kind of first drive because we get to drive the other trim level today, which will be the design for me. So the dual motor with the extra performance. But the one thing I'll say straight away is that the steering does feel very light. It is responsive. Doesn't feel like you're playing a video game or anything like that. But again, for everyday driving, you'll have no major issues with it, but don't expect that kind of sporty feel and kind of connection you might get from, say, a Seat Ateca. That's just something to take note of there. But for parking, you'll definitely have no issues whatsoever. As I'm kind of doing this now, it responds very nicely, but yeah, it is very much on the lighter side of the steering wheel feel. I do actually like the look and design of this wheel as well. You've got all the nice buttons laid out logically. So again, just driving every day, yeah, shouldn't have any issues at all. So what are my thoughts on the BYD SealU here on its UK media launch? Well, in terms of an SUV, it is, I think, a very good all-rounder. Their hook with this car is the fact that you can get all this standard equipment for under £34,000. That, to me, is a massive selling point of the car, especially when there are rivals which you get to this price and you don't really get much in terms of standard equipment. You kind of feel like, you know, it's lacking a little bit and you've got to go higher up to get what you want. To get all of this as standard, I actually think is a massive, massive selling point. Now, I'm going to find myself a little place to park. So this is where that light steering really does come in handy. I've also got my wonderful 360 cameras. Don't forget, everything here is standard, and this is something you don't get with so many other cars out there. So yeah, when it comes to the SealU, they've got you hooked with the standard equipment. The fact that you get all this straight off the bat is brilliant. The fact as well that you've got different size batteries, there are different kind of needs and wants you can get from the SealU, again, will appeal to a lot of people out there. The only niggle I would say is plug-in hybrids in general are not a massive seller in the UK, because it's kind of that in between of having a hybrid car and a full electric car. People who have a full hybrid, they don't need charging points at home. Those who have a full electric car tend to try and get a charging point put in at home. So that's that kind of middle ground there that you just need to kind of think about. Of course, yes, you can look at charging up with a 3-pin, things like that. But I'll talk about the charging actually and stuff like that when I drive the design version of the SealU. But I think this will be a popular car. I think it will be a great family car, especially for those who are still afraid of going fully electric, but they want all the toys, they want all the features, all the safety, all the driver aids as standard. And I think in that kind of aspect with the SealU, you can't really go wrong.